Let's talk about the toms, because when we walked in here today, you had 421s up, which is another one of those mics that it's just, been there forever. They work great, But we tried the 101 fets on toms today. What did you think about that?
Yeah, and I guess the first thing is, why didn't I do this before? Because I had a couple of them.
Well, because you only have 2, you don't have 4.
Well, I guess it's a good point. I guess in my mind, I know a lot of guys use condensers on toms.
Right.
I've never been one to do it all that much for no reason in particular.
Right.
But I guess the first thing I felt was, wow, why haven't you done this before? And the second thing that I thought was powerful. They're very powerful sound. I guess I thought of like a nice small diaphragm condenser, ideal for hats and cymbals and things like that. But and snare.
Right.
I'm very familiar with it on snare. But having these 15 dB pads is really a nice thing.
Right.
Because you don't have to go hunting around on the internet for these little pads you got to collect and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
It's right there. You unscrew the mic, you push it in, and for drums, I would probably just start there.
Yeah, and for somebody like you that you record drums, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You're just going to leave it there. You're probably going to turn it on once and it'll stay on forever.
I think so. I mean, that's what I've been doing. It seems to work.
Right.
But yeah, I really like how they're very powerful sounding. And for me, one thing I can say about that is toms, I like to tune toms low. I like to have nice, thuddy, deep sounding toms. And sometimes in a thick mix with a lot of stuff going on, toms are usually part of a drum fill. Well, drum fills are supposed to be exciting. Drum fills are supposed to jump out of a song and take us to a new level. We're shifting into fifth gear, so to speak, or whatever. That's how I think of drum fills.
Right.
And sometimes with deep toms, it can be very easy for them to just not be that exciting and come out and really take the song to a new level. And that's the first thing I noticed about these. Even with these old Ludwig mahogany drums, very soft.
Very Ringo sounding.
Very quiet, very warm. They make these things speak.
Right.
And I like that.
Well, a lot of what you're hearing is, we use really big Jensen transformers and we use really high-grade components. And it's a simple design. So it's almost like part of mic design is how little can you degrade the signal.
Yeah.
How much can get from point A to point B without getting lost in components.
Right.
And that's why, a good condenser mic will sound great on snare or on toms. But if it's not a good mic, it's just not going to work.
Right.
There's too much information, too much attack, too much transient response, too much frequency response. So a dynamic is a good, safe compromise. You know it's going to work and it's going to sound good.
Well, the other thing, too, is I didn't really get, with condenser mics on snare, toms, sometimes you're going to run into two things. Some honk.
Right.
Sometimes it's not always about having too much attack or whatever, especially in my world. I like attack, but you get that really sort of like soupy, dark honk thing that you got to try to figure out where it's at and roll it off.
Right.
I'm not getting that with these.
Right.
And the other thing that I'm not getting, of course, I try to get my cymbals up and stuff, but we just listen to the toms when we put these up. I like to listen to toms when they're not being played.
And see what kind of leakage you're doing.
Yeah, what kind of leakage is it? I mean, of course, most guys are going to gate or they're going to clean the tracks or what have you, but sometimes you can get it to work for you.
Sure.
And that leakage can actually contribute to like the breathing of a drum kit, especially on slower tunes and stuff so I like to listen to what the leakage is like when I'm not playing the toms, and is it musical?
Right.
That like my cymbals are above my head.
Oh yeah, and
I've had
engineers love you for that.
I had to work hard, still have to work hard for that, because as a drummer, when you hit a cymbal, that separates the big boys from the small boys, I think, because that's when the pocket gets lost. Yeah, and an inch or two in height on the cymbals can make a huge difference in the overall sound of a kit. When you get all those mics happening. But I like the way these sound when the toms aren't being played.
Yeah, when I was still engineering, I used to, if a guy had really low cymbals, I'd wait till he was out of the room and I'd sneak in and raise them.
Yeah.
I never got caught.
Really?
Nobody ever busted me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would raise them about 6 inches, but I'd raise them up a couple inches so I could at least get some mics in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to get them up as high as I can, but you got to practice that because it can, coming out of fills, you can lose it.
Right. Yeah, most guys that do sessions all the time, they're recording all the time, usually that's not a problem. They've figured that out.
Yeah.
But, band guys that have never recorded before, it's like, they've got their cymbals like an inch above the tom and, don't want to move them. Yeah. Understandably so.
It's nice to have it right there.
On behalf of engineers everywhere, God bless you.
Well, thank you. I remember when I first started doing this, that was some of the requests that came in was just get those cymbals up as high as you can.